Till the last minute, you had the FBI modern day asking President Biden not to free him.
Just the way they handled his case, they wanted to ensure that there was going to be a conviction. Somebody's going to pay for this. That vendetta is continued and continued and continued. That's why you have this FBI agent writing this letter.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Jean Roach. You are a member of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, Mini Konju Lakota, and you were there in 1975 at the Oglala firefight when Leonard Peltier was wrongly convicted of killing two FBI agents. And thankfully, unfortunately, nearly 50 years later, he has now had his sentence commuted. So he will be returning home after 50 years sometime in February. His health is failing. This has been a decades-long campaign, which you have been one of the leaders in freeing Leonard. Before we get into the details, just talk about what does this mean for the Native American community across the country. This has been a major movement for decades.
Yeah, 50 years. Yeah, it's a long time. What this means to me as a survivor is that we finally get a little bit of justice for Leonard Peltier for saving our lives, really, you know. Most of the people that were there in the camp in 1975 were children, adults. I mean, the grandma and grandpa was there. And just a lot of people. It wasn't just one family. It was like a, you know, like an area of homes. You know, you had the first family when you come in had like 5 or 6 children. What I'm trying to point out is that it wasn't like an army camp the way they try to make it sound. It was a community that asked for assistance from the American Indian movement because of their beliefs. Really, they believed in traditional ways, and anybody that believed like that was labeled either American Indian movement or a sympathizer. You were being shot at.
Right.
You couldn't drive anywhere. That's just the whole climate, and that was after Wounded Knee. So we're just surviving with daily shootouts. I mean, it wasn't really. You never know who it is. It could be the goon squads, could be the FBI. Who knows? That's
and a lot of time for people that don't know, like what led to it. The FBI was following somebody onto the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, and it seems to me you were there. The FBI.
Well, the FBI was not okay. The only way an FBI is supposedly on the reservation is when a top 10 crime has been committed. Okay. They have the 10 top crimes because it's a sovereign nation. Right. We had the BI police. So really they weren't supposed to be there. So I don't know. The story is so conflicting, but the bottom line is that Leonard Peltier's co-defendants, Bob Robidoux, Dino Butler, were acquitted in a U.S. court on the basis of self-defense or community was attacked. Okay. And then, the ones that escaped with Peltier we were all under 18. My brother was only 10. We had other children that walked out earlier when they first heard the gunshots, kids, little kids. But when it comes down to it, if they were, we have information that came out in one of the courts that they were watching that place. So they knew there were children and old people there. But that's always something they always do to our people is attack our women and children. This time, maybe they didn't know. Well, I don't know if they knew or not. But, that day was the law of the gun. People were carrying weapons to protect themselves.
Right.
Okay. We were always being attacked as AIM people. And that was because at the time, the government the tribal government was Dick Wilson, who was against AIM people, and he started the Goon Squad, they call it. guardians of the Oglala Nation. So like I said, who knew who was shooting at who, when? No one ever knew. So in that climate, when this firefight happened, there's so many questions that everybody has. Since his co-defendants, Peltiers, were acquitted, why is it so convenient that the United States government can do a change of venue without, without counsel, and also, the defense that the previous defendants used, everything was banned from Leonard's trial by the judge. You can't tell me that's not a setup. So
yeah, they tried to pin it on Leonard. I mean, clearly
it was definitely a setup.
Can you describe, because you were a minor at that time, they tried to get folks like you to turn against Leonard. It seems like they tried to coerce minors in some cases to be as witnesses, claiming that you saw Leonard shoot at these FBI agents.
Well, they couldn't get to me because I live here in South Dakota, but some of the other teenagers that were there were from the Southwest, and they tied them up to chairs, told their parents they're going to spend their life, just really scared them out just to talk, and told them what to say. That came out later in court also. But when I got taken before the grand jury here, me and my brother, he was 11, we basically had legal assistance. We had lawyers already in our community from the Wounded Knee era of, we had the Wounded Knee Legal Defense Office here in Rapid. So I had support where they didn't have the support that I did. So, they just basically, what I know that they've done over the years is they change everything up. There's a basic constitution that everybody in the United States falls under. But when it comes to us, they manipulate it. They manipulated Leonard Peltier's case to keep him in prison, because the very first thing they did is they threatened the Lakota woman, Myrtle Poorbear, into signing 3 affidavits that she was his wife, she witnessed everything. Took those 3 affidavits to the Canadian government because Leonard got caught on the run in Canada. That was the very first lie, one of the first lies, okay? Can't say the first, but and presented those false statements because the Canadian government would not extradite him without an eyewitness. And we come to find out, we're like, who's Myrtle Poorbear? We never heard of her, nor did Leonard ever meet her. So it's just the lies and the manipulation. People need to know that, that's not what the Constitution represents. There's some real good flaws in this that they use against Native people. And, they were probably thinking that we'll never learn to read and write. Well, that's wrong right now. We know exactly the tactics that they used. They used pro,
I want to read
the Indian movement.
I want to read, this is actually in 2021, so years ago. One of the lead prosecutors who convicted Leonard Peltier asked President Biden 4 years ago for him to issue clemency. And this lead prosecutor, it's kind of unheard of for the guy who kind of led the charge to convict him, to ask to free him. He said, Leonard Peltier's conviction and continued incarceration is a testament to a time and a system of justice that no longer has a place in our society. I've been fortunate enough to see this country and its prevailing attitudes about Native Americans progress dramatically over 46 years. But with time and hindsight, I've realized that the prosecution and continued incarceration of Mr. Peltier was and is unjust. We were not able to prove that Mr. Peltier personally committed any offenses on the Pine Ridge Reservation. He goes on to talk about, constitutional violations and other errors that were made. Errors, I'll put in air quotes, which is startling because you have the lead prosecutor saying that years ago, but till the last minute, you had the FBI modern day asking President Biden not to free him. This is from FBI Director Chris Wray. He's resigned since, but on January 10th, he wrote to President Biden, I hope these letters are unnecessary and that you are not considering a pardon or commutation. But on behalf of the FBI family and out of abundance of caution, I want to make sure our position is clear. Peltier is a remorseless killer who has brutally murdered 2 of our own special agents. Granting Peltier any relief from his conviction or sentence is wholly unjustified. Why do you think so many years later, I mean, there's been the people who were involved with this are either dead or old from the FBI. Why is the FBI, was it so important to them still to keep Leonard in prison?
Well, there's not only James Reynolds came out with that statement, but another FBI agent, and she was located in Minnesota during the time. I'm trying to remember her name. There's so much information. But she came out a couple years ago and made a similar statement that they used Leonard Peltier's case as an example when they're, training their federal agents. And, they made it seem like it was a vendetta and revenge, and we could hold a lot of revenge and vendetta grudges. We want to move on. We're trying. But with Leonard's case for 50 years, that proves the United States government has no respect for our laws or sovereignty or even their own laws. That's so ironic that everybody thinks it's okay. But once we step over the line for jaywalking, we go to jail. You know what I mean? That's right. How they treat us. And we're still fighting that. The racism comes from them stealing our land. I live in Rapid City, South Dakota, which we call racist city. We have a state that made laws that they don't have to teach about our Lakota history. I mean, what is this? It's not going to go away. We're still here 50 years later, and we understand more of the genocide that our ancestors have experienced and still experience. How do we have a political prisoner where there's no real evidence? In the very beginning, it's all circumstantial. I went to that trial. You witness a judge going in there, swinging himself around in the chair. I don't want to hear it, more or less. And that's the way his attitude was. You didn't have to hide it from nobody. We're all sitting there looking at him, And it's really just the way they handled his case. They wanted to ensure that there was going to be a conviction. Somebody's going to pay for this. That vendetta is continued and continued and continued. That's why you have this FBI agent writing this letter. And most of them, they don't understand. They came into their field with an oath to uphold the Constitution. And we've got feedback like that. Why don't they just let him go?
Right.
Why does that continue? Even their own have questioned it. So, here in Rapid City, we have the same attitude because of our land. Right now, our land is going to be attacked by the new administration. A lot of the natural resources that they want, is located under reservations, So they continue their disrespect. It's all connected. The American Indian movement made strong stands protecting the earth, protecting our way of life. That's just the way it is for us,
right.
And
a lot
of people have that.
Not that I've lived it at all. I'm not indigenous. I'm not indigenous, clearly, but I was on the ground covering Standing Rock there for on and off for 6 months in 2016 and 2017. And I couldn't believe it when I actually went to a mall in Bismarck, and I kind of went like undercover, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I pretended to be kind of conservative to interview white people in Bismarck to ask them about, it was something to ask them, who they thought was at fault. And I heard some of the most racist, ignorant, bigoted things just casually uttered.
They say it's their land, and as per the treaty that and the government stole it.
Okay, well, I don't know. How long are we going to live in the past? But then you want all this other stuff, and that's today, and then on the other hand, it's for the treaty, and then tomorrow it's don't worry about the treaty, we're equal citizens. Then tomorrow it's we're indigenous people, and we want all these rights, and it's frustrating, I'm not racist. I hate everybody the same.
I think the Indians have been way more aggressive.
How so?
than necessary.
So
Yeah.
I think that I'd love to know from you. It seems to me that the movement behind Leonard, it wasn't only about that day in 1975, but about just America's original sin and standing up against the continued oppression, violence, theft, rape, murder against Native Americans.
Yeah, missing and murdered, that's really, it's probably always been there, but now there's a light on it. So we're seeing the numbers, why is this going on? We have a system that we use, like we're under federal on the reservations, and that's mandatory sentencing. It doesn't matter if you got beat up and then you protected yourself. So we have this double standard that we live with, and we're technically, for us, we're under the 1851 treaty, okay, a government to government relationship. But they don't want to acknowledge that because they've overstepped it in the very beginning, The gold mining in our sacred area, the Black Hills, now we have uranium, we have lithium, we have over 500 permits requesting to do mining or fracking in the Black Hills. The same way with Standing Rock. I was up there too. The people of the area, like here, they just have this inborn racist attitude. What is wrong with them giving back land to us? Because we don't have to be the only ones on the street. A lot of our people are, houseless people. We have a corporations that run the housing. They're not able to get housing because of whatever reason. So we're just like being pushed out of our own land on that level too. But if the United States wants to continue to make treaties with other countries, they need to look at the treaties they made with the Native nations,
Mm-hmm. And,
honoring them.
I'd love your thoughts, because I think the media so often paints things as so much worse under Republicans. And I'm not here to defend Trump, who I think is pretty awful. But, Obama was president during Standing Rock. Obama was lobbied to release Leonard Peltier. I showed Biden was requested to do it 4 years ago. So Democrats give a lot of lip service, I believe, to Native Americans. But across the board, it seems that politicians on both sides, you mentioned the Black Hills, that was one of Leonard Peltier's why he was fighting. It is sacred to Native Americans to protect and defend the Black Hills. Can you talk about both parties have continued trying to basically steal from you?
Yeah, well, they've pretty much, one thing, let me talk about Obama is I had thought that he was going to be one of the presidents to release being a constitutional lawyer. Okay, what part of them do they not understand when they don't respect their own law? I mean, why are you in office? I mean, it's going on like it's nothing now, like, oh, we'll kick around the 14th Amendment. Who cares? Nobody cares, As long as you're getting money, that's all they care about. But us, we're not programmed that way. We're not too many generations back behind us of caretakers of the land and the people or way of living. And I think that's why we're attacked. I don't know. Because if you continue the way we think and respect each other or respect that we've learned, maybe we've been taken down a lot in our boarding school era. We have the whole system. I was lucky to be going to AIM school back then, so I see these young kids struggling with these boring classes they have to take in high school. I'm like, I haven't been brainwashed to that level, but It is brainwashing and taken away from our understanding of protecting our earth, which is the whole basis of the American Indian movement, going back to our spirituality.
Right.
So people distort that because they wanted to make it sound military, like we're standing there with AK-47s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've only had guns to protect ourselves.
Right.
which is the right of everybody.
And can you talk about, obviously it's wonderful that he's been freed. He will be freed. He's still in prison until February, but he will technically still be under house arrest. So he's not pardoned and completely free. What is Leonard Peltier going back to? He's 80. He's been in poor health. What kind of life will he be able to live, as far as you're aware, under house arrest? And, what is the response from Native Americans? Do they want to, gather for celebrations and really pay tribute to him?
That's kind of he is going to be taken care of. That's already set. How much I want to tell, you don't know, because you have people flocking. But when you've been in prison for 50 years, what is your mental health going to be like? I'm sure you don't want hundreds of people coming and whatever. I think he needs time to heal. He needs ceremony. That's what I would hope, that whoever is in charge of him, basically. And I'm pretty sure they will. They've already secured housing. They have security. Whatever. First thing is a doctor. He has the aortic aneurysm, and I'm saying, which he's had for years, and no real medical care. Diabetes, that's one of the number one killers of our Native people, and that's due to diet. And what do you think they have in Coleman? They probably have bologna sandwiches every day. Right. The water was always an issue, that they can't drink the water out of the pipes there. They have to buy water. And, it's just like, wow. If anybody treats people wrong, it's the United States and their prison system. And we have a lot of people in there. A lot of Native Americans are overrepresented in South Dakota, like 80%, and we're like less than 10% of the population. But that's how much we represent in the men's prison. The women, right, about the same number, somewhere around there. I'm not saying that's exact, but it's high. Mm-hmm. And when it comes time to come out, you have that on your record, you have a felony on your record. You can't get housing. You can't get a lot of help because you have to wear that felony jacket. Right. So there's a lot of long-term things that people are being exposed to that people aren't talking about. Mm-hmm.
And, I think that there's been focus and some credit given to Biden. He did some things in the Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure bill that helped, with electricity in some reservations, Wi-Fi, things like that. But let's be clear. These are still some of the most poor areas in the country. And, there's still water issues at many reservations, horrific poverty, the epidemic of missing Indigenous women. Can you talk about the conditions now? Are they much better? Are they much better than 1970s?
Well, I'll tell you, I haven't seen very many reservations in South Dakota area building housing. So we're still living in, substandard housing, many families in one. A lot of broken down trailers. We have FEMA trailers that came in for a tornado. Those are still being used, and they're supposed to be temporary. So there's not much change, and no jobs. People come, okay, the nearest reservation is Pine Ridge. They come up here, they want to do something. They can't find housing because it's outrageous without a job, and it's hard to have a job without housing. And, it's just like this town is building barriers to keep our people away. They end up around Rapid Creek. We had a serial killer down there a few years ago, maybe about 10, 15 years ago. That's never been solved. Over 10 people been killed along the creek here, all Native people. And, Rapid City wants to hide that, because levels of death are high. They have like a thing, they don't call it murder or nothing, but they kind of place different namings of the death, even if it might be a straight out killing. they're trying to make this town into a little nice touristy town at the beginning of our sacred land.
Right.
So we have a mayor that, he's a pastor or used to be a pastor, and he pushes or he ignores the people that his religion says he's supposed to help. Okay. You got the 10 Commandments. None of those they respect.
Right.
And they treat our people like, go back to the reservation. We'll give you a free ride home. One of the city council members said, well, why don't you go home? This is our land under treaty. But of course, you don't want to acknowledge your own laws again because it's not convenient. And, there's a lot of Forest Service land that could go back to our people. And there's things that could happen if people cared. And I'm talking about, a racist government which don't care.
Right.
So it was real typical,
Yeah.
in this state. And we had Christy Nome. Oh, my God. Someone that goes around shooting dogs.
Right. And I guess my last question is, it's wonderful that Leonard Peltier will be coming home, but for broader, Indian country, you got Trump talking about drill, baby, drill. He's doing he just did an executive order declaring an emergency on U.S. energy because we haven't been drill, baby, drill. You're seeing, be all over wildfires, severe hurricanes, and drill, baby, drill. Typically, that means near or on reservations. Definitely. Not to mention the uranium mining, fracking. What are your thoughts and the threat that Native Americans face, on or around reservations now?
Oh, definitely a threat. We're still not even on the Pine Ridge Reservation. In the 1950s, there was a uranium spill. That has never been addressed. We're still feeling the effects of that, the effects of drinking radioactive water and it coming up from the tables underneath into our land. Our water is being attacked. Pretty soon, who's going to be able to buy a bottle? It's not going to be us. Where the water is so tainted that you have to buy it. And we're going to buy it from these billionaires. That's my thought about what's going to happen. And the way to change that, I don't know. Money talks. They all get bought off. But we're just going to try to... We have these laws that don't mean nothing to them. And they make executive orders like that, totally ignoring our status as sovereign nations.
Mm-hmm.
And they get rid of the people that want to be fair. There's a few people out there that want to help. But it won't come to them until maybe it's too late. Mm-hmm. If you can't drink that water out of your faucet, they're going to say, oh, what the hell? It's too late now. Your water's been contaminated. So we've been protecting the water. We as in the Clean Water Alliance here in the Black Hills, which used to be the Black Hills Alliance way back. We fought uranium mining. Now we have a gold fracking that's been started. We had over 500 permits asked for that were granted last year. Maybe, I don't know if all of them were, but we're all under fire at this moment now. If you don't understand that and you continue on, that's what they want. But the ones that know exactly what's happening with our Black Hills or water or land, well, you see how it was in Standing Rock. When you stand there in prayer and you get shot by rubber bullets and all those, the pepper sprays, they wouldn't do that to American Indian Movement because we had maybe our little single shot 22s, but we had something. They had to think twice about it. That's my personal perspective, that they don't care about our prayers. And when they respect you is when you go on their level. Maybe they're going to kill us. Who knows?
Right.
But yeah, somebody has to say something.
What's your message to non-Indigenous people watching, who many came to Standing Rock or supported from afar? Obviously, it's almost a decade after that, but what do you want to see from non-Indigenous allies in terms of support?
I think that they if they have the means to support, do it in a I don't know. There's so many laws going on. I'm not sure exactly where we're at in South Dakota because they had that KXL law that went into effect, and they could charge organizations. We see them attacking Greenpeace. So it's like we need research done. I mean, what that would help. There's so many ways. I mean, we know what we need to do. Don't be scared to voice your opinion in support of your water. Mm-hmm. Mother Earth, we all come from there. So wherever you're from, you have an issue there. I guarantee it. Definitely.
And for you personally, I mean, you were 15 when this happened at the Pine Ridge Reservation. This has been one of the defining fights of your life to free Leonard Peltier. You're an elder now. What does this mean to you?
Him getting out is a beginning of maybe change, but there's been change. There's been good, but there's still negative. But I think that if people think about their basic human rights, that's all we want. We're not asking for special treatment. We're not asking for nothing but to respect us, respect our treaty, give us back our land. We can take care of our people. If you want to do your resources and do over there, you throw all your resources into some kind of organization that's racist, that's where it's all going. It's not going to the people. They need to help us help ourselves, or, you know, I don't know. There's so many problems here. Housing's number one. Beyond our basic survival with water, you know, being attacked. That's everybody's cause, you know, no matter who you are, or no matter if you're an animal or not, you know.
Maybe instead of giving other countries, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars, we could start with clean water, housing, electricity.
Yeah, well, we can do solar. I mean, we need to really hit the alternative stuff. I mean, it's hard. It's hard, but I think the real basic is water.
Right.
So many with Choni, really.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for your fight. We'll stay in touch.